Hello everyone and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out a little short interactive experience by a number of indie developers that I quite like, including with audio from David Kanaga of, Proteus and Dyad fame. And this one is again for LD26. This is the minimalist theme. We're going to be flying around this little paper bird and collecting food for our little bird friends, I guess. Maybe that's all we've really got to go on. It's a very simplistic little experience. There's not a whole lot to see here, but really, the star here is going to be the audio design and the beautiful colors and the synthesis of those two coming together. Much like Proteus, it's got a pretty similar vibe, where you can just kind of hang out and enjoy the atmosphere and just take a look around. I'm not sure exactly if this does go anywhere specifically. I did play this for a couple of minutes just to see. But I did notice a bunch of buildings kept cropping up, so maybe as we harvest more and more of these boxes and see more and more of these color changes, we will notice, something cool happen? Anyway, that's what I'm hoping. But I do want to just wander around a little bit, take in the sights, and just see where it goes. So as we progress around through this environment, you'll notice, of course, the color scheme keeps changing. We keep getting little hits of orchestration and music, which come in and sound just absolutely beautiful. It's got a really elegant, classy sound to it, and reminds me a little bit of, well, at least the aesthetic more so than the music, but that reminds me a little bit of that game Flower, in that we're sort of progressing through this, I almost wanted to say organic environment. This is a little bit less organic. In fact, it's quite artificial, but there is a little bit of that same vibe to it anyway, if only just due to the beautiful meshing of the colors, as there always seems to be this gradient from top to bottom. And occasionally our little paper bird seems to get lost a little bit in that color wash sometimes. But thankfully, if we need to, we can always just hit spacebar and mix up the colors, regardless of if we've picked up a bit of bird food. The bird seems to get stuck on the buildings a lot. That'll happen, I suppose. Controls are quite simple, though. All we've got is arrow keys and R to reset and spacebar to change the color scheme if we want to. I'm not sure if there's another point to using spacebar, though, other than just changing the colors. Regardless, it is nice that you can just sort of play around with them and see what you can come up with. Definitely does give a different vibe to what we're looking at. I should also mention, as you move around, your little paper bird is going to actually make sounds based on each time you move. If you bank left or right, you'll hear it. And it sounds exactly like something you might hear in Proteus, which is just sort of a welcoming, familiar, happy feeling to have that. Have I eaten all of the boxes at this point? There doesn't seem to be much else going on. I'm sure there's one on one of the back parts of one of the buildings or something. It would be kind of nice if we had a little bit better control over, the verticality of the situation, but at the same time, that might also make things a bit difficult to steer around. Right now, this seems to be basically, in a way, two-dimensional, at least with regard to altitude. Although, you do kind of modulate up and down a little bit depending on where these boxes tend to fall on the buildings. Looks like our viewpoint was shifting farther and farther away. Not sure if that was indicative of anything in particular. Probably have figured out by now there's going to be a fairly short episode. There's probably not a whole lot else to see. But I just thought this was worth pointing out just because it's a really just beautiful little experience, very simple, and it definitely follows suit with the minimalist theme. And I do want to try and highlight the ones that seem to follow best with the theme if possible, although that's always a little difficult since I'm generally doing these on first impressions style. But I do try to, vet them a little bit before we get into the actual video, which is why, I spend a couple minutes. Some games more than others, depending on how complicated they are. This game, though, probably didn't need a whole lot of meandering. It's pretty self-explanatory. It would be very beautiful if a bunch of other birds showed up at some point. And you know what? Another thing this is actually giving me a little bit of a feeling of is Journey. Obviously a pretty different framing there, but there is this feeling of like this isolation, solitary exploration moment where you're not exactly sure where your destination even is, but you're going to go and look for it anyway. If there even is a destination, you don't even know. And in Journey, your main focus was like make your scarf as long as possible by finding collectibles, and if somebody shows up in your game, well, that's cool. You can maybe interact with them a little bit. And I could see this game actually employing a similar little nuance to it, where you could maybe have this silently hooked up online, and if there's other people playing it, then maybe they could slowly start to show up in your city. If this is even supposed to be a city. I mean, there is also the total, just really abstract nature of what we're looking at here. It really is just a bunch of columns with a V-shaped strip of, you know, a plane, essentially. It could be paper, it could be, you know, just a really basic representation of a bird. And we can actually zoom around, which I haven't really been doing. The viewpoint's getting very far away. Maybe the longer I fly without touching buildings, the better. Been having many less hits of the music showing up. Oh, there it is. As you get further away from the buildings, it's actually very easy to get turned around and then all of a sudden completely lose them. There's actually quite a bit of fog, which is, I believe, how we're achieving this very hazy, you know, it's sort of a filter to it almost. And I don't even know if that's the right word to say, but it almost feels like we're looking at this with some sort of like an atmospheric, you know, shading effect going on, where the further away we get, there's more fog. I mean, I guess that's sort of like plein air painting or something, although probably not in the same context. Have I eaten all of the boxes? I think I may have at this point. There doesn't seem to be any other box action going on in the city, and we're getting very far away. Oh, okay, I guess I have reached the end there. So, that has been a brief little jaunt through Fold. Just, again, thought I'd share this little experience with you. It's nothing, you know, super amazing, but at the same time, it's definitely worth looking at as well. I feel like I'm putting it down by saying it's not super amazing, but I hope you know the context with which I'm saying that is, I'm not trying to be critical of the game as far as, like, is it worth existing? I'm just trying to be critical of comparing it to other LD entries that are maybe more gameplay focused, and there's nothing wrong with one or the other in terms of what you'd prefer. Just in terms of, if I'm looking for something that I'm going to spend, you know, a bunch of time with, you know, this is definitely more on the experience side of things than the actual game side of things. You know, to each his own, we all have different preferences. I like to cover a little bit of both myself. So if you're here for that kind of thing, then I hope you enjoyed it. And I really enjoy these color schemes. They're very, very beautiful. I should probably cycle through a few more of them before we close out here. I guess I can keep doing that as we go. I'd love to see the same color cycling mechanism done with some other style of game. Maybe like a, you know, first-person platformer, because we seem to be doing a lot of those lately. Or maybe not, I don't know. But it does seem like a pretty cool thing. Anyway, we're going to wrap things up. I'll give you the super abbreviated... Wow, okay, I'm really stuck on that building there. There we go. Just keep turning around. Super abbreviated plug section. indie-impressions.com if you want to check out all the other episodes in the series. We are almost up to 400 of them now. There is a lot of stuff to see if you want to go check out some interesting, abstract, obtuse, unique, artistic, original styles of indie games. I try to cover as many of those as I can, but I also cover some more mainstream ones as well on occasion, depending on what kind of mood I'm in. As well as, you know, other LD games in the competition, and other game jam type games have cropped up as well. But other than the website, though, facebook.com/indieimpressions, if you'd like to leave a like over there. It just takes a second, it helps me out, and then you can stay up on all the new news for the channel as well as the site. I tend to post when I'm doing live streams and such over there, so feel free to stop by. Lastly, if you're an indie dev and you'd like to possibly have me cover your game on the show, quickest way to reach me is send me an email via the contact form on the website, or if you want to just say hey quickly, the Twitter would be the way to do that, and I have a Twitter handle which is @RockLeeSmile. All my social media links are available right in the description of this video, as well as the download link for this game itself, so feel free to take it for a spin and enjoy yourself, have a little tranquil moment, and just, you know, relax. Sometimes that's what you gotta do. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you come back again tomorrow for another awesome indie game, and I will talk to you then.